This is a Sports Radio Live podcast
covering your world of sports. Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live. It's weekdays at 3 on 99.3 Talk FM, the talk of East Texas.
Place of Nagy. All right, so we're talking football right now. So who better to talk about pro football on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com, than a member of the America's Team's Holy Trinity. There was Tex Schramm, there was Tom Landry, and we have on the line Gil Brandt. How are you, Gil?
I'm fine, Brian. Craig, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Honored to have you here with us. And, of course, everyone here in the area is jumping off the Tony Romo bandwagon as fast as they possibly can after the last-minute mistakes cost the Cowboys the game against the Jets. I hear a lot of comparisons between Romo and Danny White. Great numbers, but never going to win the big one. What do you think about all that?
Well, let me say this to you. First of all, Danny White was the second fastest player in history of the National Football League at that time to win 50 games.
There you go. I've defended him many times, Gil.
Well, Danny White took us to 3 consecutive NFC championship games. And, I don't think it was Danny's fault that we lost. I think that it was our fault that we didn't put enough good players around him, is what happened. And I thought that Danny was the unfortunate person that followed God, so to speak.
Yes, he did.
And any time that happens, and I think you can look college coaches, any place you go, look around and see what happens. It's like when the University of Texas, you followed Darrell Royal. It's really, really hard to live up to expectations, is what it amounts to. I think this. I think Tony has got to do one thing. He has a tendency to bad plays, and I thought that if you looked at him on tape Monday night or Sunday night, I thought he played pretty good. The unfortunate thing is that he should have not thrown the pass that he did that was intercepted at the end of the game.
Right.
And the other unfortunate thing is that he tried to make something happen and fumbled the ball, and the Cowboys didn't get it back, and consequently, he's a loser because of it. I don't think that. I think that if you talk to knowledgeable people, and I don't think that he's in the top 5 in quarterbacks in the National Football League, but I do think that he fits in there somewhere between 6, 7, and 8.
That's pretty high.
No, I really believe that's where he fits in there.
That's impressive. And that comes from somebody who knows. You've seen your share of quarterbacks, no question.
Well, I have, and as I said, and I tell you what, I think if you do this, I think if you evaluate him and Troy Aikman on fourth down or fourth quarter plays, I think that he was very, very similar to Troy. And Troy, if memory serves me correct, won a few Super Bowls here.
I recall that too. What do you think about this overall Cowboys team? I mean, you being the talent evaluator that you are, what can we expect this year from this team?
Well, I told Smoke Sr. Down in San Antonio that I thought that this was going to be a team that was better than expectations led you to believe. And I thought that they played really well last week. I worry about this game in San Francisco, and I'll tell you why. First of all, you're going from Dallas to New York to Dallas to San Francisco. It's very, very tough. You're coming off of a tough loss. And in all probability, I'm afraid that maybe Des Bryant, who hasn't practiced all week because he didn't wear pads and has got a thigh bruise, and sometimes those thigh bruises take a long time to heal. We had a guy by the name of John Dutton and had a thigh bruise. And my gosh, I think it took him 3 weeks to heal. So I just hope that they do have Des for that game, but I worry about it a little bit.
Okay. We had Drew Pearson on a couple of weeks ago, and he, of course, is finally going into the Ring of Honor this fall. And when we talked to him, we asked him who else from those teams of the 70s and early 80s that you helped put together should be in the Ring of Honor and or the Hall of Fame. And he ticked off about 10 names about as fast as you could. I'm asking you the same question. Of the teams of those teams of the 70s and early 80s, who should be in the Ring of Honor that's not in there right now? And of that bunch, who ought to be in the Hall of Fame as well?
Well, first of all, I think that we have about 5 guys that should be in Canton in the Hall of Fame. I think the 2 linebackers, Hawley and Jordan. I'm going to give you one that's a little different, Cornell Green. Cornell Green played absolutely great for us, went to 6 Pro Bowls. I think he belongs there, and I think Drew belongs there. You know, Drew led the league twice in receiving, and incidentally, you're very fortunate to have Drew because he is one of the finest people that you'll ever be around. And, you know, I kind of laugh about redoing contracts. If you ever get Drew on again, I think he'll tell you I redid his contract about 10 times simply because he exceeded expectations every year. But getting back to Drew, you know, he led the league twice in receiving, in passing catches. And in those days, everything was so different. I think he led it with 54 and 55 or 54 and 56 catches. And consequently, so when you see Drew, and they say, well, he only caught 450 passes. I guarantee you, if Drew would have played under the rules that we have now, Drew would have caught 900 to 1,000.
Oh, no question.
Is what it was, because the rules have changed so dramatically as far as the passing game. And incidentally, in 1977, before we changed the rules and said you could extend your arms and you could only engage a receiver 5 yards downfield. Mm-hmm. That particular year, we had 5 300-yard passing games.
Wow.
The next year, we changed the rules and we went to 15. Last Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, we had 14 in 1 week.
That's incredible. I was reading your article in the NFL.com website today, and you were talking about these incredible passing games that were put up. And I did hear a theory, though, about that. And how much do you think the fact that these players may not be completely physically in shape yet because they lost all of the off-season workouts and basically are kind of into like second or third week of preseason, really in conditioning wise. Do you think that had anything to do with these incredible numbers? I mean, obviously the rules favor passing, but do you think this is going to slow down, or is this something we're going to see all year long?
Well, all I can tell you is last year we didn't have any work stoppages, and we had the most touchdown passes we ever had and the most yards we ever had. So I would think that it's the skilled athlete. But, let me say something to you. You have to understand. We used to have a holding penalty was 15 yards. Mm-hmm. We have a holding penalty now that's 10 yards. We have the radio helmet. We never had the radio helmet before. We have 7-on-7 in high school football in Texas, which is just so great. Last year, to show you, Oklahoma threw 617 passes. We had 4 teams, Oklahoma being one of the 4, that threw over 600 times last year, and then we had 13 that threw over 500 times. Now, let's go back to 1958, 57, 58, 59. A fellow by the name of Don Meredith, out there in East Texas, Mount Vernon to be exact, was the great gunslinger at SMU. 375 passes in 3 years.
In his career, yeah.
So I think that I think we have the 7-on-7. I think we have college football. I think we have all these things to help us along. And the other thing is, we had over 60 rookies start this past weekend. Now, let me say this to you. We had 13 offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, Craig, if you go back, 10 years or 12 years or so, everybody says, well, guy, offensive line, we got to teach him pass protection. It takes him a couple years till he's ready to play. We had 13, including 2 with the Dallas Cowboys, including 2 with the Seattle Seahawks, including 1 at Philadelphia. So we had these offensive linemen all around the league that started. So I think that there is something of a background of why we have done so good, and I don't think that the fact that we had a lockout for that period of time means anything. And also, let me go one step further. I went to 11 training camps this year, and I'll say this: there really wasn't any difference in training camps this year than there was last year.
Okay.
I was at the Cowboys first one I went to, and I thought they had a novel idea where they had the blue team, and the blue team is what they did is they took all these first-year players, rookies, and second-year players, and worked a little extra with them, and let the veteran players get into shape in the conditioning drills. So I think that yes, we might be behind, but if the defense's backs are behind, so are the quarterbacks and wide receivers.
Sure. Bryan Houston, Sports Radio Live with Gil Brandt on 99.3 Talk FM. Do you think Tim Tebow is ever going to be a starting NFL quarterback?
Brian, I'm a Tebow fan, and I thought he could be. I thought that. I think there's one thing about Tebow. I think he's a better game player than he is a practice player.
Mm-hmm.
I just worry about him now because it looks like he has trouble quickly locating the right person to throw to. He has a little bit of an elongated delivery, is what he has, and I'm not sure that he has the greatest accuracy in the world. And I think when you roll all 3 of those things together, it does not bode well for him for future success. Now, he's the kind of person that he's going to make it a success. His history in the high school in Florida, he was originally at a school that was always winning. He transferred to a school that never won, and he won. And if history tells me correctly, I think he won 2 national championships at Florida.
Yeah, and I watched the guy in person several times, and I came away saying that's the greatest college player I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
You
didn't think Cam Newton was better?
No, I didn't see him in person, but you're right. I do think Cam Newton's pretty special too. But I saw Tim Tebow over a 4-year period, and just thought, man, this guy, you just can't beat him. He refuses to lose.
And incidentally, Brian, let me give you one other interesting note. Number one, we have 9 quarterbacks who are starting in the National Football League, the most of any state from the state of Texas.
It's amazing when you think about what the state of Texas was before they started loosening up the 7-on-7s and things like that, and you couldn't find 2 good quarterbacks to play from this state playing college football back in the 80s, and now you look at it and you can go and find the 10th best quarterback in high school in Texas, and he can go and start at a place like Missouri and become an All-American. It's phenomenal.
Franklin's pretty good, isn't he?
He's awesome. I did see your list, too, the top 5 senior quarterback prospects, and right at the top, you have Ryan Tannehill from Texas A&M, which is probably just going to thrill Aggie fans. What is it about Tannehill that makes him number 1 in your mind?
I really think he's going to be a very, very good quarterback. I'm going to say this to you, and if I had a choice to pick right now between Locker or Tannehill, I would take Tannehill.
Wow.
So, he's only played 6 games last year, and 13 this year probably, or 13.
Yeah.
They don't have that playoff game anymore. But I think he has a chance to be a special player, is what he is. And, I think all Texas high school fans, and there's a lot of them down in East Texas in your neighborhood, should be very proud of the high school football and the way it's played here in the state of Texas. And incidentally, one other thing, the Dallas Morning News had an interesting thing. I think there were 252 teams that they took the scores from last weekend, 5, 4, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Only 22, I think it was, teams that won the game scored less than 25 points.
The game has changed a lot in the state of Texas. There's no question.
You used to see 6-0 and 3-3, and let me go back in one quick thing before I monopolize all your time.
You're great.
Back in '77, and I think you probably saw this in that story. Schramm came into my office and he said, "Did you see what happened last week?" And I said, "Yes, I did, Tex." Week 1, we had 9 teams that didn't score. We had 8 teams that didn't score a touchdown, and 1 team, the Rams, who scored a touchdown. So I think you see how far we've come in the passing game. And I'll say this, you can go to a game, you can blindfold yourself, a guy can run for 15 yards, there's not a lot of noise. Throw that ball down the field 25 yards, it's incomplete, there's a lot of ooh and ah.
Oh, yeah.
Spectators love it.
They do love the passing game. Gil Brandt, it's such a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate being on with the two of you.
Outstanding. Thank you. That's Gil Brandt, and this is Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM. You can read Gil's articles on NFL.com.
This is a Sports Radio Live podcast
Covering your world of sports. Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live. It's weekdays at 3 on 99.3 Talk FM, the talk of East Texas.